Hello, happy Wednesday. How's everybody doing? I'm just going to give it a minute here to refresh and I will get started. Let me know if you're here live. Say hi. Let me know you're here. I'd love to say hello to you specifically. And any questions? I'm just going to go ahead and get started. Any questions that you have, especially if you're live, go ahead and any questions that you have about hiring a coach or anything that you have a question about as I'm talking today, feel free to just pop your question or your thought into the comments here, and I'm tracking those and I will answer those. If you could use some coaching around hiring a coach, I am happy to do that. Okay, I'm just going to double check. Yeah. Okay. We are live. So yeah. So if you have questions and you're live, definitely pop them in the comments and I will answer them. I will provide as much coaching as I can. And then also, if you're catching this on the replay, drop me a comment as well, just as if you were watching it live, and just tag me and I'll come back in and answer any questions that you might have so that you get that access to me as well. Okay, so I wanted to talk today about hiring a coach. It's funny, I've had some really interesting conversations recently with people, just like in my discovery calls and booking my last couple of new clients. And it's been so interesting. There's been some really interesting questions that have been popping up. And I realized that there really is, I think, a lot to talk about or a lot to think about rather, when you're hiring a coach. And so that's what I'm going to talk about today. I've got lots of tips and just some general things. More than anything, a lot of what this live stream is about is, have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? Like, hopefully, if you're looking for a coach of any sort, and I'm going to be talking about coaches of all kinds today, hopefully this will help you really get more prepared when you hop on a discovery call with someone. That's really my hope for this live stream, that you feel prepared and that you feel like when you get off the phone with someone, or after you don't have to make the decision in the moment, but after you have a conversation with someone, that you know if you're a yes or a no to that fit. And oftentimes I think when we talk to other coaches, or talk to coaches, we get a better idea of what it is that we want. So you might have a conversation with someone and be like, oh, that's not at all what I want, but I'm so glad I had this conversation because now I know what I do want and I can go look for that. Okay, if you're live, say hi. So I'm just gonna jump right in. First off, I know I'm not alone. I think there are a lot of people similarly to me that get a little bit annoyed with the term coach. I resisted calling myself a coach for a very, very, very long time because I feel like it's the type of title that pretty much anybody can use. And, it's just an interesting title, right? There are people who are certified by certain coaching organizations or by a specific, I know a lot of coaches who coach coaches and create certificate programs for that. Some people have some sort of formalized, specific, even certified training as a coach. And some people don't. And so I think this coach term gets thrown around a lot in the online space in particular. And I personally just was like, I don't want to call myself that, but ultimately that's what I do. That's really what I do. And it took me a little while to sort of just look at myself and say, Laura, you're a coach. It's okay to call yourself that, because that will help people resonate with and understand what it is that you do. But it really was, somewhat difficult for me in the beginning to just kind of own that term. So I want to talk about a couple of different ways that coaches might work And I think this is really, this is really one of the first things that to think about when you're thinking about hiring a coach. Is your definition of a coach the same as the coach's definition? Or is your definition of a coach the same as anyone's? So I think it's really important. So couple different ways that I have seen people call themselves coaches and how what they do might look differently. So I think some people call themselves a coach. I am certainly in this bucket. I'm a coach who helps people find their own answers to their questions, helps people make good decisions for themselves, for their business, helps people clear their mind, think through things. But it's the onus, the responsibility is on my client to run their business, to make their money, to make good decisions, right? They're not hiring me to make decisions for their business. They're not hiring me to tell them how to run their business. I'm coaching them around how to run their business the best way for them. And I'm helping them make the decisions for their own business. I don't know what's right for everyone else. I don't pretend to know what's right for everyone, but I help you figure that out. There's a lot of coaches out there, whether they're business coaches, mindset coaches, life coaches, spiritual coaches, all kinds of coaches. A lot of people follow this type or this definition of coaching that I use, right? So you're not hiring me to do something. You're not hiring us to tell you what to do. You're hiring us to be that voice in your ear, that voice of reason, that weekly or bi-weekly checkpoint of, okay, I did this. Now let me just get my head straight around the next step, what I want to do and how I'm going to do that. And I want to feel good about it. And I want to feel confident about it. So that's one sort of definition of a coach. And then I think other people call themselves coaches, but they're really more guiding, mentoring, advising, teaching. And that's not to say that I don't provide advice and that I don't maybe mentor my clients, but I think some of those terms, guide, mentor, teaching you how to do something. Some people call themselves a coach, and I don't think that's necessarily wrong. But can you see how that would be different? So for example, there might be somebody out there who calls themselves a coach who helps people put together, I don't know, some sort of system in place to attract leads, whether that's Facebook ads or funnels or what have you, right? Some people are coaching people on, which I think includes significant levels of teaching how to, walking you through a process, how to put something like that together, right? Some of those people call themselves coaches. So that is a really different focus than someone like me who's guiding you through making good decisions for yourself, guiding you through, organically, whatever's happening in your business, whatever needs to be discussed and get clear on, or release and heal from that's happening. So there's that piece of coaching. There's sort of more, I think it's more practical, not even practical, but very tactical. Like, here's how you do it. I'm going to walk you through this process, or I'm going to teach you how to do this, or I'm going to, walk you through my structure. So there's those people, right? The mentor, the guide, the how-to, the teacher. And then I think there are some other people that I'm going to just call experts. They're experts, they're consultants. I'm just going to call them experts or consultants, where they have a specific expertise. Maybe they're a marketing guru. And they do some sort of, I don't know, assessment on your business, right? This is more consulting, more expert, where they look at what's happening and they make a recommendation, and maybe they even help you implement, or maybe they implement the proposed changes. I like to think about that in a consulting way, because that's what I used to do for a living when I worked in corporate. I worked for consulting firms, and that's what we did. We surveyed the scene, we made recommendations, and we oftentimes also implemented those recommendations once the company said, yes, that's what we want to do, or we want to do this, but with a tweak. So, that's another type of work that sometimes people call themselves coaches. And then finally, I see a lot of people call themselves coaches when they are specifically running some sort of training class, training program, certification, something or other. People often still call themselves a coach, right? If they're doing some sort of education or training. So you can see you've got all these different types of work happening, different problems that people are solving, and different ways that people are helping you, not just in business, but in your life. And they're all calling themselves coaches. Again, I'm not making that wrong, but I think it's important to think about when you're looking for a coach, what is it that I'm looking for? Ultimately, that is, I think, sometimes the hardest thing to get clear on and to communicate to a potential coach. You've got to get clear on, what is your purpose of hiring a coach? What's my purpose for hiring a coach? I don't know how to do X and I want somebody to help me do X. Okay, then you're not looking for a coach like me. You're looking for someone who will do a training or come in and implement something for you, or they're like the consultant or the mentor who walks you through some sort of process, right? Maybe you just want to take your business to the next level and help yourself make good decisions. Okay, then you're looking for somebody more in the other type of camp, where it's more advising, more pulling things out that really are in you to help you get clarity and make good decisions for yourself, for your business. Maybe you're looking for some spiritual work, and you still have, I think, typically a decision to make around whether you want someone to help you with something organically and to hire a coach that's going to walk you through whatever the next step is for you and whatever it is that you need to learn, versus hiring a spiritual coach that walks you through some sort of structured process or program, right? Those are actually very different. Depends on what you need. They're all good. It just depends on what you need. So ultimately, whether you're hiring a business coach, whether you're hiring a life coach, whether you're hiring a spiritual coach, I have a client who's a divorce coach. There are sex coaches out there. There's coaches for freaking everything. Mindset coaches, whatever it is, getting really, really clear about what it is, why it is that you're doing this. And then connected deeply to that, what is it that you hope to achieve by working with this coach? What is it that you're hoping to achieve? So do you have a problem you want to solve? Do you have a vision of the future that you think they can help you, get there quicker or with less stress? Where are you going? How is this going to help you get there? And then I think it's thinking through these things like, okay, well then therefore, what type of coach do I need? Do I need somebody to walk me through some sort of process? Or am I just at a point where I need someone who's been in business longer than me to be the voice of reason for me once a week? Help me make good decisions. Help me, stay with, for example, I'll give you a great example. One of the things that my coach has helped me with, my business coach has helped me with, is I'll make a decision. And then it's like, there's a point in time where I either decide it's not going to work or decide it hasn't worked yet, or I'm kind of just like interested in taking the variation because I like to change things up. I really love variety. And she'll hold me to it and say, well, hold on a minute, but you made this decision and you committed to this decision, and it doesn't sound to me like it's not working, or you don't enjoy it, or that it's time to do something else. Is it? And then I'll go, oh, was I just changing something because I just like variety and I'm used to moving around and doing different things? There's nothing wrong with that. But she makes me go back, or she reminds me to go back and take a minute intentionally and go, oh yeah, I made that decision, and actually I really like that decision, and I like what I'm doing. I don't really have a need to change it, other than I'm just kind of a person that likes to change things. So I think I'll stick with this for a little while, right? So somebody who helps you find your patterns, maybe. Okay, so knowing your purpose, what problem are you solving? Knowing your purpose, why are you getting a coach? Number two, knowing what you want to accomplish. What is it that you specifically need and hope to achieve in this coaching process? And again, that's typically one of two things, if not both. One is, I have a problem I want to solve. And two is, I have this vision of the future that I'd like to create, and I have this vision of change that I'd like some support with. So I think those are really, really, really important. And I think it's very often people hire a coach to help them with something, and what they actually need is something else. And I think that's just, it's just the hardest thing. But I think ultimately, if you go through some of these things that we're talking about today, it will help you get clear. And I can't talk about running a business or hiring a coach or so many other things without relating this back to dating. Fit is so important, right? If you're just going to go run around and start dating people online willy-nilly without knowing what it is that you want, right? And I think some of the more obvious things are like, do you want to get married and do you want to have children? Great. Not to say that you can't date somebody that doesn't have the future vision. Like, there's lots of dating for now, right? Which I want to get to in a minute. But if you're looking for a long-term partner, that's a piece of data that you really want to sit and think about and be really clear with yourself about what you want, so that you can communicate that to your potential, future date partners, and not put yourself in a position where you're spending a lot of time pursuing something that is never going to be the same vision that you have. Same with coaching. Know what you want, know why, know what you need, know where you're going, and that'll help you start to identify who might be the right person to support you. Okay, so then you get to the type, right? We already talked about the type. The coach, the consultant, or the how-to person, the expert that maybe does it for you, the advisor, and then the training person. And then I think it's really important to spend some time pondering the style of the person that you'd like to work with. What type of style works really well for you? And I used to coach people around this when they were looking for jobs and interviewing people, whether they were hiring people or whether they were the person trying to be hired. It's still the same. One of my favorite questions to ask when I hired people onto my team that were going to report to me is, I would say, what type of management style works best for you? How are you best motivated? How do you prefer to receive, constructive criticism and feedback? What works for you? Because I can tell you really quickly if I'm going to be the right manager for you based on that answer, right? Same with coaching. Somebody I worked with, and the reason that I asked this question is because someone that I worked with was really, really good at what she did. We hired her into a role that was kind of that plus a half of something else. And that half of something else was not her skill set. And what she wanted from me, I didn't ask the question in advance. What she wanted from me was to give her emails every day with step-by-step instructions of what I needed her to do. And then she would do it. And if I couldn't do that, she couldn't do her job. And that we were very busy. I wasn't hiring someone to, that's not my management style, was not my management style, still isn't. And B, I didn't have time to do that. I just needed someone who knew how to do the job I trusted her to just go and do the job. But that was just not her style, right? So had I asked that question, and after that learning experience, I asked people that forevermore. I started asking, what style of manager works best for you? Because we got really, really clear as things were not working. And she said, I need you to tell me how to do stuff. I need you to tell me exactly what to do. And I was like, okay, that we're not a good fit. And same with coaching. Are you looking for someone to tell you exactly what to do? Are you looking for someone whose style is, has a spiritual slant, right? I have only had business coaches that also have some sort of spiritual component to their work, whether they are a spiritual coach or whether they just understand it, because I wanted to know that somebody understands what I do, and not just understood it logically, but had some sort of spiritual component to their own lives, maybe even to their own businesses, but also that somebody could coach me from that perspective. I wanted to be coached from a spiritual perspective around my business. That's what I do as well. And so I've always wanted that. So that's been a requirement for me as far as style goes. I've always wanted someone who has that side in addition to whatever it is that I'm looking for. What else about style? Like, are you looking for a straight shooter? Are you looking for somebody to call you out on your bullshit? I am. That is not a style that works for everyone. It is just not. And then there's a whole other end of the spectrum that's a lot softer and more gentle. Where do you fall on that spectrum as a coachee, right? What works best for you? Getting really clear about that is super, super important. And it's going to help you so much in the long run, because I see people hiring coaches that don't work for them. And there's so much, it's a process, right? And I never feel like when you hire someone that it's exactly wrong. I think we're always there to learn. And I think you can get something from coaching with anyone. But if you can hone in some of the answers to these questions that we're talking about, you're just going to be set up better for success, for finding the right fit. Again, this is not all that different from hiring someone on your team or looking for a job. Because when you, and I think if you hear nothing else today, one of the things that I see people doing when they're hiring a coach or thinking about hiring a coach is they wait for the coach to tell them what they do, but the coach doesn't know like what expectations or what, and the coach, it is on the coach to communicate what it is they do, right? I own that piece of it, but I can't, or the coach can't read your mind and know what your definition of a coach is, know what style works best for you. Or know like what you're hoping to achieve. So don't be afraid to ask a lot of questions in the discovery calls, to state some of the things that you know already. I know I want a coach to help me with X. I know that this style works really well for me. How does that fit with tell me about your style? And then they might say something and you're like, oh yeah, I want that too. Like, I like that too, right? Add it to your list. What is the person doing? So don't be afraid. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to state your preferences, your requests, your purpose, what you're looking for, all of these things that we're talking about. Don't be afraid to just be really open and honest and say, hey, I've done a lot of thinking about this. I will appreciate it. These are the things that I know so far that I'm looking for. How do you stack up? This doesn't sound right. How do you fit in with some of these things? And it's not to say that you also need to be rigid, right? Like if you're putting a list together of the things that you want in a dating partner, maybe you don't need all of them. Like it's okay if they're not 6 feet with brown hair or whatever. But write them all down, be free with them. And then you'll get to make your decision as you go. Oh, but you know what? This person, ticks 6 boxes, and those are the more important boxes for me. And I'm okay with A, B, and C not being checked off, because I can either get that from another coach or I can get that later. I need these things now, right? Then you can start to sort of process those things through. But don't be afraid to get that clear list for yourself. Another thing I like to think about is, what is the coaching process? How does this person coach? And this is a little different than like the how-to piece or some of these mentoring conversations that I was talking about earlier. We're talking about the different types of coaches, but what's their process? Some people have a very structured process, even in one-on-one coaching, that they walk you through. They have modules, or they have an approach, or they have a 1, 2, 3 step by step, right? Some people are super organic. My work is very organic. I might create a process or a structure based on what the person needs. Because if we want to achieve these 3 goals, I may say, okay, it seems to me this is the piece that comes first. We'll work through that first, then we'll go to this one, then we'll go to this one. And I may have some specific things in place that I want them to work through within each of those, right? But for me, it's very organic. Most of the time my clients come to me, well, it depends. I have sort of a structure, two different sort of ways that I work. Sometimes I hop on a call with a client and we go and I say, okay, where are we starting today? What's up for you? And they bring to the call what they want to talk about. Other times, as I said, we have some sort of like general idea of where we're going. And so we might plan 1 or 2 sessions ahead of time or in advance, kind of just knowing like, okay, this is where we're going. This is what we probably will work on. But I always check that out with my client when we hop on. Okay, we said we would work on X today. Does that still feel good, or something else coming up that's changing the need for it? But I'm very, very, very organic with my clients. Some people are super structured, and hey, there's a whole lot of people in between. So knowing what the coach provides in this setting is really, really important. And you may or may not know what you need in this ballpark, but it's important to just ask the question to really understand, because if you're looking for somebody to teach you how to do something and they don't have a structured process, you get to decide if that's going to work for you, right? I'm trying to decide if I want to say this one now. Yeah, I want to go back to the point I was making a minute ago about you have your list of things that you need, and then speaking directly to those and asking the coach, how do you fit with that? Because what I find so often, and again, I said this earlier, as you have these I encourage you to have discovery calls with more than one coach. I encourage my clients to do this as well. To help you get a sense of what it is that you're looking for, especially if you're still in that thought process. But if you have this list, it will help you, but it also, let's not be rigid about it in the sense that don't put 400 things on your list and expect one person to fit all of those, right? Maybe you need 2 different coaches. Maybe you need one coach and then another one. Or maybe you don't need all these things, but these are all just ideas, right? One of my favorite people ever, who has been my coach now for almost 5 years, 4.5 maybe. She is, I don't know what to call her. She's like a spiritual coach, she's basically my life coach. But she's super spiritual. She's psychic. She's magical. She's everything. And I reached out to her. Someone I loved had passed away. And I reached out to her because a friend of a friend told me that she was a medium. And so I was looking to connect with this person who had passed. I was grieving very heavily, and I was looking for some support there. And so I reached out to her thinking she was a medium. And so I had my list, right, in my head at least, like, I want a medium. She's a medium. I'm going to call her. So we hopped on a quick call. And she's like, I don't really do that. Like, occasionally I'll get, something might come in from somebody who's passed, but that's not what I do. I'm not going to sit down and do a reading and connect to the other side for you. What I do is I help people clear energy blocks from their bodies that are connected to emotions that they're feeling. And I help them on their spiritual journey. I help them get clearer and sort of move through their life's journey. And I was like, oh, well, that's what I need. I wanted a medium. I needed her approach, right? So that's why we aren't so rigid. That's why we like to talk to people before we hire them, right? Because it will help you know what it is that you need. What if all I really needed was a medium? Not all, but what if what I needed in that moment was a medium? Then she and I would have gone, oh, okay, cool. But I would have known she existed and I would have moved on, right? But I think oftentimes when you talk to people, it gives you a minute to go, oh, that's interesting. I never thought about that. I didn't know what she did even existed. And that was what I needed. I could feel the grief in my body. So anyway, that's a thing. That's an example of knowing what you need, knowing what you want, being really clear about it, but also being open to, oh, maybe that's what I need instead. Not being wishy-washy, but just being really open-minded. Because the one thing I know about coaches, and I've hired bazillions of coaches in my day, so often they do stuff that you don't, like this example, they do things that you don't even know exist or that you wouldn't necessarily put together. Like a lot of people come to me from the spiritual side and they're like, oh, cool, you're a business coach. Other people come to me from the business or practical side. Like, oh, cool, you're an intuitive, right? For me, it's blended, but not everybody does that. And so some people are like, oh, that's great. Awesome. Bonus. That also fits, something that I didn't know I needed or something I didn't know I wanted, or that was on my list too. I just thought I'd have to get it from someone else, but you provide both, right? So having those conversations with people is super, super, super important. Okay. I want to go back to style too, because I think sometimes, like we were talking about straight shooters versus people who are a little bit softer. Are you looking for your coach? I had a really lovely conversation with one of my clients about this a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago now. Do you want your coach to tell you what to do? Or do you want your coach to help you figure it out? And that gets a little bit back to the different types of coaches, but it's different. One of the things that I am transparent about, and I try to be more and more transparent about it, is I will advise people. I will tell you my opinion. I'm not going to just sit and let you spin if I have thoughts and guidance or whatever. And it is important that people go through their own decision-making process, thought process, because the goal, at least for me, and I think for a lot of coaches, I think the goal is to ultimately work yourself out of a job. The goal is to empower your client to be able to grow. So if I'm telling them what to decide, that just then keeps them dependent on me and they always will need me. I'd like them to want to be with me and to want to have my voice in their ear, but to not need me, right? I want them to, if they're having a hard time making decisions, I always use that because I think it's a great example. It's a big piece of what I do, helping my clients make decisions. But if I'm just telling them, just like a parent, if I'm telling them what to do and how to do it, and my goal is to empower my client, then I'm not accomplishing my goal. I'm not teaching them and helping them make their own decisions. But I'm also not flailing, because otherwise then what are you paying me for? But guiding people through that process is a big piece of what I do. And some people I will drive them crazy because they want somebody who's a little bit straighter, who not just wants me to call them out on their bullshit and who wants a straight shooter, but they really do want to be told what to do. Maybe it goes back to the how-to. Maybe you want somebody to walk you through a process. Maybe you want somebody to really help you in the beginning, make some clear decisions about your business. That's fine. It's just not what I do. Some people do that. I don't. Right. And I think it's because I'm more of a mindset coach than a let me walk you through how to do these things, because I think running your business in the best way is best. Whatever way is best for you is also best for your business. And I don't think the same approach works for every business or every person. But again, this isn't to say that there's anything wrong with the people who tell you what to do. They absolutely have their place. I have hired people like that before. It just depends on what it is you need and what you want and what your purpose is. So again, back to style. Are you looking for someone to tell you what to do? Are you looking for someone to help you figure it out? That's really, really important. Or are you looking for something kind of in the middle, right? The other thing I think not a lot of people know, you don't always know the answer to this, but I think it's important to think about. Are you looking for someone to help you in a point in time? Or are you looking to somebody to work with long-term? I think sometimes we know the answer to that, right? But it's really important to think that through, because if you know the answer, because then some of the things on your list, just like dating, may not matter, right? If you're not interested in a serious long-term relationship, then who cares if they want children or want to get married in the future with a serious partner? Does it really matter? I don't think it does. Same with, let's say you're looking for somebody for a specific point in time to help you with, I don't know, your launch. So they don't need to check all your like soulmate client, coach boxes. If they check the right boxes for that point in time, and again, for that purpose, for what it is that you need, the problem that you want to solve, the vision that you have for the future, the vision of the change, right? That's why all these things are important. But the other thing I'd like to think about with coaching is, just like dating, you're not always meant to work with the same person forever. And I encourage my clients to make those decisions, to wrap up a program with me and then come back later or never again. It's fine, right? Sometimes you're meant to work with a coach for a point in time, and sometimes you're meant to work with a coach for a long time. All of those are good. I've had 4 business coaches in 4 years, and they were all the right people for me at the right time. The other 3 that I don't work with anymore are not the best person for me now. I'm working with the best person for me now. Just like dating, just like relationships. You know, some people meet and fall in love and get married out of high school, right? And other people never get married. And then there's everything in between. Okay, let me just check my notes because I think I'm coming to the end. If you have any questions, let me know. And there's so many different kinds of coaches, you guys. If you haven't already noticed, like it's usually life or business or spiritual, because I feel like that's a little bit different. But there are coaches for everything. And I think that's one of the neat things about this group is there's lots of coaches. We're not all, actually, I don't even know what percentage of coaches are in this group, but there are so many different kinds of coaches. And I think that's really neat. I think that coaching is kind of a little, what I love about it, like annoying that everybody can call themselves a coach, but also kind of cool that everybody can call themselves a coach, because ultimately, isn't that kind of what we're all looking for? If you're on a spiritual journey, if you're on a personal growth journey, if you're on an entrepreneurial journey, or if you're a creative and you're on a journey with your creative career, you know, it's nice to have someone who knows something that can support you, whatever it is, right? And I think coaching is really, really beautiful practice and process. And like I said, I have over the years had I've had career coaches. I had a coach help me get to whatever the phase that came right before I decided to start this business. She got me to that point. She got me much clearer in my head about what I wanted to do. And for those of you who don't know, I started my business as a hypnotherapist first. That was where I started. And we finished our process working together. I started with, I have no idea what the hell I want to do with my life, my career. I had left corporate, but I did not know where I was going next. And I started with, I don't know what I'm doing. I want to know. And then I ended with, I don't know all the way. I don't know the future, but I know that hypnotherapy is the first step in that direction. And that's exactly what it was. So I've hired career coaches, spiritual coaches of all kinds. I think I've had a spiritual coach, minimum one spiritual coach for the last 5 years, and sometimes two. I've had coaches that have trained me in coaching, trained me in spiritual practices, trained me in the Akashic Records. I use primarily the Akashic Records when I'm doing my intuitive work, but not exclusively. But that's what I use when I do the intuitive readings here in this group. I've had business coaches. I've had mindset coaches. So I think, and so all of that is to say, I think that I'm a huge fan of coaching. I am a coach. I'm a huge fan of the beauty of like the variety and all these different types of coaches that you can have. And I think sometimes people struggle because it could be like, look, a needle in a haystack, right? Or it could be, everybody calls themselves a business coach, but people do it really differently. Some business coaches like tell you what to do and how to do it and walk you through their process. Other people are more organic like me, and it just depends. So again, going back to the very beginning, get clear on your purpose. Why are you hiring a coach? What is it that you need? What problem are you trying to solve? Or what change are you trying to create in the future? Are you creating, not trying, are you creating in the future? What's your vision for the change or vision for the future? And then start looking at some of the details. What's their style? What type of coach do I need? Do they have a process? If so, what is it? Does that feel right for me at this moment for this particular thing that I'm looking for support with? Is this point in time or is this long-term? Is it short-term, long-term? Is it just for a specific goal and then you want to move on? Or is it something else? And then also, who does what, right? For those people, there are some coaches that do certain things for you. Who's responsible for what? Who does what? That's an important thing to get clear on. And again, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to state up front when you're hopping on a discovery call with this potential coach. This is what I think I'm looking for, or this is what I'm looking for. This is a style that works well for me. This is my purpose. This is where I want to go. This is me. Can you help me? And what's your style? And how would you help me? And what would it look like, right? Not just how many sessions, but like, what would it look like? What are your thoughts about this problem that I have? Those are all really, really, really important. And again, just like dating, I mean, everybody has their own responsibility. The coach has the responsibility to make sure that they're communicating to you thoroughly about what it is that they do, what their style is, what their pricing is, whatever. But you can't expect them to read your mind, just like a dating part, just like a blind date, right? Like you can't expect them to read your mind to know what it is that you need. So, and they can ask probing questions, but they can't be in your head, and it's not their job to be in your head. And it's your job to be in your head. It's your job to know what you need. It's your job to ask questions. It's your job to know yourself well enough to know what styles are going to work for you, to know what feels good to you, and then just to know what questions to ask. So don't be shy, and especially don't be shy about if somebody says, oh yeah, I do boom, boom, and boom. Okay, well, what do you mean by mindset coaching, right? Again, getting back to those definitions that we talked about in the beginning, everybody has their own definitions of coaching. I had somebody ask me the other day what deliverables I provide to my clients. I don't provide deliverables to my clients. I don't create things for you and give them to you. Now, I do review documents. Like if you're writing a social media post and you want my thoughts on it, or you're redoing your website and you want me to look at it, I do that all the time for my clients. But I don't have a right? That's the client's deliverable. I'm just happy to look at it and based on the conversations we've had to give you some feedback, right? But that's different. So who does what? What are you looking for? What is their definition of the coach versus your definition of a coach? Do they match up, or do they match up enough to make sure that you're getting what you need? Okay, I am going to, if there are no questions, I will wrap that up here. I have a couple of things that I want to share around my coach. So I'm fully booked at the moment. I now have my next spot will open up in July. So if you're interested in doing some coaching, hop on a call with me sooner rather than later, just so that you can get your spot saved. And I'm still doing the free sessions. I don't have a ton of spaces left just because I am full now for the rest of May and June. But I mean, full because I'm fully booked in my coaching practice, and I don't have as much space in my calendar for the free sessions, but I'm still offering free sessions. So if you're interested in maybe working with me, a lot of people are hopping on free sessions and then discovery calls because it's just easier to get a little bit of coaching first. And then that helps me have a discovery call with you too, because then I really know what's going on in your business, because we've just spent 30 minutes like diving into what's really happening. And even if you don't want to work with me, even if you're not looking for a coach, the free sessions are available to you as well. Especially for those people in this group. I've had so much fun having these calls with you guys and getting to know more people in this community. It's really a stellar community, and I'm more and more in love with this group every day. So thank you for being a part of it. And thank you for taking me up on these coaching calls, because I really do enjoy just getting to know people in the community and what your business is. And the other reason to do that is I'm really big on networking and connecting dots and connecting people. So if I see that you have a need for someone, I might know someone. And that's another reason why I really like to get to know the people in this community. So I really know and understand your business so that I can send you people, right? Whether it's a collaboration or, a potential client or customer or what have you. So take me up on the free calls, a free coaching session. Take me up on a discovery call if you're interested. I would love, love, love to just have a conversation. And next week's live is our monthly reading. So I am an intuitive. As I said earlier, I primarily use the Akashic Records. And what I do once a month in this group is super fun and super magical. And I do a reading in the group. So you do need to be on live in order to get a specific question answered for you. So join me at this time next week here in the group. Bring a question with you. Pop that question in the comments as soon as I hop on live, and bring one question about your business that you would like some intuitive guidance around, and I will channel some intuitive guidance for you around that question. So definitely take me up on that as well. It's most people's favorite thing in this group. And what you will see if you can't join live, what you will find is that, because I always set the intention, and my guides do this as well, that whatever comes out of my mouth isn't just for the person who asked the question. It typically has a broader application. Some people go, oh, that wasn't the question I was going to ask, but I totally needed to hear the answer. So it's a really beautiful hour of channeled guidance that is not just helpful for one person or not just specific to the questions that are being answered. And to the person that asked the question, it really does take on a really neat life of its own. And there are some interesting themes that always weave throughout that, you couldn't have made up if you tried. And people on the replays are absolutely a part of that. So if you can't catch me live, you can't ask a question, but you can receive an answer, is my point. You can receive some really great guidance just by watching the replay. And I always leave my lives up here in the group. So you can just go to the announcement section, or if it's passed a little while, I usually leave a month or two up in the announcement section. And then you can just go to the media section where all the videos are. And every single month I do a live reading. So you can even, and they also stand the test of time. So you can even go back to previous readings and listen to them anytime you're looking for some spiritual guidance around your business, because it's always going to be meeting you where you are at that point in time. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for joining me. If you have any questions that occur to you later, for those of you who are watching live, and if you're on the replay, if you have questions or comments, drop me a comment and tag me, and I'll come back in and answer them. And again, thank you for being part of this group. I'm super happy that you're here. Let me know if you have any other questions about coaches. If there's any coaches in this group that want to add to this, I would love to hear what you would add to what I've said, because this is just my experience as a coachee and as a coach, but there's so many other things that you can ask and think about when you're looking to hire a coach. So hop on in, coaches, and don't be shy to share your guidance around this too. I'd love to make this an even more thorough and complete live. So feel free to drop your nuggets of wisdom in here too. All right, guys, have a lovely Wednesday. I will see you next week at this time for the May reading. Talk to you then.